All right, everyone. Today's lesson is going to be pretty cool. We're going to be getting into we've spent a couple of days talking about pandemics and how infectious diseases spread, um, and sometimes how different diseases can be more contagious or less contagious. And so today we're going to talk about specifically about microorganisms and which are the things that cause infectious disease and then lead to pandemics. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and read this. There are some notes here on the right hand side. These notes should be in your notebook as we are going through this. You should be taking notes about the things I'm saying, the things I'm writing, maybe the things I'm highlighting. Feel free to pause this video to get the notes down so you don't miss out on anything. All right, let's get started. As we learn about pandemics, we're right up here at the top. As we learn about pandemics, we need to understand exactly how they occur. Microorganisms are the driving force of infectious disease, and they are microscopic organisms. So if we go here to the right, microorganism, micro comes from the word means very small, organism means living thing. Micro, very small, like to the point where you cannot see it with the naked eye. You need a microscope in order to see it. So the definition of microorganism is a microscopic organism, especially a bacterium, which is plural for bacteria, virus, or fungus. All right, let's continue with the article. The idea that diseases were caused by microorganisms was extremely controversial until French scientist Louis Pasteur proved it in the 19th century. He discovered many organisms in his research and created the germ theory of disease, which states that pathogens or germs can lead to disease. Over here on the right, germ theory of disease. Diseases are caused by the invasion of the body by microorganisms. So the microorganisms do not come out of the body. The microorganisms, they're not in there waiting to cause disease. They come in, they're introduced to the organism, and begin to cause infection. Okay. Now I want to be clear here. Our bodies are filled with bacteria. Our intestines are filled with bacteria. There is bacteria all over our skin, and it's supposed to be there. There are some microorganisms that are not dangerous for us. There are some microorganisms that we actually need in order to stay healthy, that actually protect us from many other dangerous bacterias or viruses. And so I want to just make that very clear right now that not all microorganisms are harmful. Some are actually needed for us to stay healthy. All right, taxonomy. So this, we're getting into now, like how are microorganisms classified and how are they named? So you've heard of, I'm sure, E. coli. You've heard me talk about Listeria monocytogenes in class because that was a specific bacteria that I researched in college. So those naming conventions come from this larger taxonomy. And so these are how animals are classified. They from top down. So taxonomy is the branch of science concerned with the classification of organisms. Every living thing, plant or animal, on this planet can be classified using this system, okay, including humans. This is not just for microorganisms, because many microorganisms have cross-kingdom characteristics. Some taxonomic rankings do not include the category. Below is an image that shows the classification from broad, which is at the top. So that means just like very general, like a much larger group, to more specific on the bottom. These 7 categories are used by taxonomists to see similarities and differences between organisms. So, you might have a ton of different organisms in the same class, But as you go further down, you get more specific. So species being the most specific, and then domain being um, the least, like more broad. Below is an image of how species are named. So you can see that there are many names uh, that apply to one organism, but the genus and species are used to reference an organism. So an example of this is the scientific name for humans, Homo sapiens. So the Homo is the genus right here, this box right here, and then sapiens is our species, okay? So we are Homo sapiens. This is how our scientific naming is created using the genus and the species, because that's the most specific name we could get. So now looking at this, we can see how a specific bacteria, okay, is classified. So to show you here, like our domain for humans would not be bacteria because we're not bacteria, right? So this is just how this bacteria is actually E. coli, okay? So these naming conventions go into, like, all of this goes into naming E. coli, okay? So bacteria, the domain is bacteria, the phylum is Proteobacteria. Now, Proteobacteria just means that it is a group of bacteria that all have something in common. Then our class would be Gamma Proteobacteria. Again, we're getting more specific as to what the specific species is. The order is Enterobacterialis. The family is Enterobacteriaceae. And then the genus is Escherichia. And then the species is Escherichia coli. Okay? Microorganisms display a stunning variety of structures and behaviors that help them survive. These organisms are so tiny, y'all. So it's really remarkable how they've adapted over the years and evolved to be so tiny but so resilient. Okay, it's easy for us to write off microorganisms as simple creatures due to their size, but in fact, they have adapted to their environments just like every other creature on Earth. They are both unicellular and multicellular organisms. So this is important. So unicellular organisms means only one cell. One cellular cell. Multicellular organisms means that they have more than one cell, usually millions, thousands, millions, billions, trillions, gazillions, whatever number you can have to express that there are so many, like too many to count, really. So most microorganisms fall into this unicellular category. Viruses, for example, fall under unicellular because there's only one cell, and it means that they do not have a nucleus. So a nucleus is I'll show you a picture here in a minute. But it's a membrane inside of the cell that holds the genetic information, the DNA. Unicellular organisms don't have that because they are just one cell, okay? So due to the presence of only one cell in them, unicellular organisms are much smaller in size and are very simple in structure. Most of these organisms fall under the category of prokaryotes, or prokaryotic entities, because their composition and structure is not complex. The structure known as the cell nucleus is completely absent in these prokaryotes. So if you have a prokaryote, that is a one cellular organism and it does not have a nucleus. So we've got prokaryotes, which are unicellular, one cell, and do not have a nucleus. Okay. Then we have, sorry, I lost my spot. Okay. Because their composition not complete, the structure known as the cell nucleus is completely absent, and this leads to their inability to handle their surface area to volume ratios. Most unicellular organisms are so small and microscopic in nature that they are almost invisible to the naked human eye. They do not have internal organs as well, and this means that the membrane, which are the organic coats around the organs, are also absent. Due to their highly simplistic life form, these can exist in areas that are perceived to be hazardous to human life and are highly acidic or radioactive in nature. So prokaryotes are really cool. They can live in like very extreme environments. So for example, Yellowstone National Park has a geyser, which is like this hole in the ground, and really hot water shoots up from this geyser. And they've actually found prokaryotes, unicellular organisms that live at the little mouth of the geyser, which is like normally an animal couldn't live there because it's so insanely hot, but because these prokaryotes don't have much to them, they can survive. Then we have multicellular organisms. So these are organisms consisting of more than one cell. In fact, they have millions of cells present in them. The larger number of cells means that these organisms are bigger in size. Their complexity of structure is like more complex. Due to a more complex structure, they can function more intricately. Most eukaryotes, so multicellular organisms are also called eukaryotes. Eukaryotes. Eukaryotes, these are multicellular, which means more than one cell, and it usually means millions. These do have a nucleus. I think the do might be cut off for you, so there we go. Do have nucleus. And other internal membrane-bound organelles. So an organelle is like, I'm sure you've heard of the mitochondria. The mitochondria is the energy center of the cell. I'm sure you've heard of, I'm blanking, the nucleus is a membrane. A ribosome, that's where proteins are made, and that these are all wrapped in their own membrane inside of the cell. And there are millions of these, okay? The cell nuclei present in the eukaryotes and the DNA of the organisms are separately placed, unlike the case of unicellular organisms. All of these cells work in tandem with each other to keep the life form alive, and this leads to a variety of complex functions occurring simultaneously, which means at the same time. Cyanobacteria is an example of a multicellular microorganism. We don't fall into the microorganism group, but humans are multicellular. Our skin is made up of trillions of cells. Our organs are made up of cells. Our tissues are made up of cells. Our hair is made up of cells. Like every single thing is made up of millions and billions of cells. So we are multicellular eukaryotes. But there are some microorganisms that are multicellular as well. So at the end of this video, we only have a couple minutes left till the screencast timer goes up. So I just want to show you, this is a prokaryote. So this is unicellular, just one cell. Everything is just floating inside the cell. There's no nucleus. There's a bunch of stuff just kind of floating around inside, and this is it. This is all this organism has. This organism does not have arms, does not have a tail, does not have, like, it just has the one cell, okay? Some microorganisms are a danger to our health. Many have beneficial uses for humans and other living organisms as well. There are countless beneficial or neutral types of bacteria present in the human microbiome. On an average day, they have between 500 and 1,000 different species of bacteria living on or inside their bodies. So right now, there is bacteria in your bodies. There are 3 times as many bacteria cells in the than human cells in their bodies right now. So yeah, like I said, some bacteria are harmful, some viruses, pathogens are harmful, some are not.